We are going to be now joined by Fox Business's Kelly O'Grady. Thank you so much for joining us here on this Monday afternoon. Obviously, a big news out of the crypto world, BlockFi filing for bankruptcy. Kelly, what do we know and what does it mean for that crypto that's so kind of in flux right now?
Yeah, I mean, this is just another company that's kind of getting hit by the contagion effect, if you will, of FTX. So they have filed today for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. In their filing, it listed a number of their top creditors, including one of FTX's arm. Now, that goes back to a loan that FTX gave to them a while back to try and keep them afloat. But really what you're seeing is, companies in the crypto space that are struggling, whether it be consumer confidence, that there's a run on their digital bank as consumers say, hey, I just want out of this industry, or you're seeing investors say, I just can't, invest more and keep these companies afloat. So BlockFi is the next one, but maybe not the last, Andy.
Definitely, as we've watched this and you thought that it might happen, BlockFi, this kind of domino to fall, but this isn't too surprising, is it? And what can it mean for other cryptos and other arms, like you said, of FTX in the future?
Sure, definitely not surprising. I mean, I think what we're starting to see on the FTX front, we've got a congressional hearing coming up in Washington on Thursday that will focus specifically on FTX. But what you're going to see likely is that will kick off a lot of regulatory action. There's been a lot of focus from Washington, both on the Republican and Democrat side, of wanting to regulate this space that was, at its inception designed to be unregulated. And this FTX collapse, the BlockFi bankruptcy, all of the contagion effect that we're seeing is making the case for regulators to step in and say, hey, we need to make sure that these assets are backed so that if there ever is a run on this digital bank or there ever is a collapse, that consumers will be able to get their money. So certainly there's going to be charges likely with Sam Bankman-Fried in the Bahamas. Still, there's going to be creditors looking for money for a very long time. But I think one of the biggest things that you're going to see coming out of this is regulation.
Definitely. And maybe looking back, the scrutiny right now is very warranted. Looking back, but the warranty was the scrutiny was very warranted. What can you say about the scrutiny, about that regulatory system that's going on, Kelly?
I could just send you screenshots of that too.
Andy, I think you might have just asked me a question, but I have completely lost the audio, so I apologize. I don't want to make up what you might have asked me, but I've lost you.
Can you hear me now? Is this good? We're here on audio issues. We're coming out of the holiday break.
Yes. I can hear you now.
Perfect. Can you talk a little bit more about the regulatory and the scrutiny? Because obviously, looking back right now, it would be obvious to say this needed regulatory scrutiny and some regulation. But was that the case a couple months ago, a year ago? Was regulation on a lot of people's minds?
Well, it certainly has been on the SEC's mind for quite some time. Chair Gary Gensler has been very vocal that this space needed controls, that it needed that backing behind those assets. But to your point, there were so many people that were looking at this space as a hedge for inflation. Clearly, we discovered that that was not the case because of all of the inflation that we're dealing with in this country. And we've seen the price of these different cryptocurrencies crash over the past year. But there's also this other dynamic that people are starting to speculate that Sam Bankman-Fried, the former CEO of FTX, was this golden boy. He was looked upon, as the second coming in this space. He was on the cover of Forbes magazine. He was a huge donator to many Democratic and some Republican campaigns. And so there started this question of whether, his influence and his pushing for certain pieces of regulation actually created the environment that allowed this FTX collapse to happen. So whether, folks were gung-ho about it 6 months to a year ago, they're certainly going to be reactionary going forward, with all the chaos this has caused.
Definitely chaos is a good way to put it, Kelly O'Grady. And my last question, obviously, we've seen lawsuits come out against FTX. Is it going to be the same way with BlockFi as well, where there will be lawsuits and consumers and lenders that are trying to get their money back and filing suits as well?
So that remains to be seen. You know, there's more information that's coming out about BlockFi. What's special about the FTX case is the new CEO, John J. Ray III. He was actually the guy that came in and turned around or cleaned up the Enron mess. So you really have the A team on this FTX collapse, if you will. You know, he had in that Chapter 11 filing saying, you know, this is the worst thing that they've ever seen. There were no controls. There were some members that he thinks were compromised. They were using company assets, $300 million to buy personal real estate in the Bahamas. So certainly nothing like that has come out about BlockFi. Right now, this looks like a case where the FTX collapse created a lack of consumer confidence and a run on BlockFi to try and take those assets out, and there just simply isn't the capital to back what they owe consumers, and that's why they're filing for the Chapter 11. But that remains to be seen, right? I mean, there's so much that we're learning about FTX, about BlockFi, but I wouldn't just yet want to loop BlockFi in with FTX since we just simply don't know enough right now.
Yeah, we're still trying to piece together everything. So Kelly O'Grady from Fox Business, we appreciate you working with us as we're working out the kinks here on this Monday after Thanksgiving. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Andy. I appreciate it.